Imagine this. You take a few photos of a place, and bam, you've instantly created a perfect photorealistic 3D version you can just walk around in. Well, that technology is not science fiction anymore. It's actually here, and it's getting crazy good. But it's got a big, bloated secret we need to talk about.
So, take a look at this. You'd swear it's just a photo of a truck, right? Well, it's not. This is a fully explorable 3D world, and it was generated in just a few minutes. The tech behind it is absolutely incredible, but here's the catch. To make this one scene, the system created millions of digital data points, and it turns out most of them are completely useless.
All right, so how in the world does this magic trick actually work? Let's pull back the curtain on the technique that has completely changed the game for creating these digital realities. It's a method called 3D Gaussian Splatting, or 3D-GS. Now, the best way to wrap your head around it is to think of a pointillist painter. You know, the kind who uses tiny dots of paint to make a picture. It's like that, but for 3D. The system uses millions of tiny, colorful, semi-transparent dots, called Gaussians, and it just splats them into a scene to build a stunningly real image from any angle. It's fast, it's gorgeous, but it has one massive flaw.
And that one flaw brings us to the very heart of the problem that this new research is trying to solve. It's a kind of digital hoarding, where the system creates something beautiful, but leaves behind a gigantic mess. To give you some perspective, just to create a single indoor room, the original 3D Gaussian splatting method used 3.4 million of these digital dots. I mean, that is just a staggering number for one little scene.
And here's the real kicker. The vast majority of them are totally redundant. They're either hiding behind other dots, they're too faint to even see, or they're just not needed. You can think of 3D-GS as this genius artist who's also a bit of a hoarder. The final masterpiece is incredible, but it's buried under piles and piles of junk.
So who cares, right? Why does this model bloat even matter? Well, all those extra Gaussians mean the file sizes are enormous, which makes them a real pain to store and share. They eat up a ton of your computer's memory, which can slow down rendering to a crawl. And that's a huge problem, because it really limits how we can use this amazing tech in real-time stuff like video games or augmented reality on your phone.
Now, people have definitely tried to fix this bloat before. The last big attempt was pretty clever, but honestly, its approach was like trying to perform delicate surgery with a sledgehammer. That previous method, called MassGS, used something called global regularization. Think of it like a paint roller. It just applied the same broad rule to the entire model, penalizing every single dot equally, whether it was important or not. It had no way of telling the difference between a crucial detail and a totally invisible piece of digital fluff. The goal was precision, but the tool was just way too clumsy.
So if the sledgehammer approach didn't quite work, what's next? This is where our new method, SVR-GS, steps in. And its whole philosophy is simple. Don't just prune more, prune smarter. Which leads to the million-dollar question, right? How do you sift through millions of these dots and find only the ones that are truly useless without messing up the final picture?
And this is where things get really cool. SVR-GS has a brilliant solution. On the left, you've got the final image. But on the right, that's what the algorithm sees. It's a special spatial mask. You can think of it like putting on a pair of X-ray glasses that only show you the junk. This map highlights all the Gaussians that are redundant, hiding, or just too faint to matter.
Let's look at another one. That kind of ghostly image on the right with all the bright spots. That's a super precise map of all the useless data. The algorithm now has perfect instructions on exactly where it can prune or remove dots without anyone ever noticing a difference. It's not a blind, one-size-fits-all penalty anymore. It's a targeted, pixel-by-pixel cleanup operation.
The researchers really put it perfectly in their paper. They said this method selectively penalizes Gaussians that contribute little while preserving high-impact ones. It's the difference between trying to clean a messy room with a blindfold on and having a detailed map pointing to every single piece of trash.
Okay, so all this talk about precision and smart pruning sounds great in theory, but does it actually pay off? Well, as you're about to see, the results aren't just good, they're staggering.
Let's just look at the hard data for a minute. The column on the right, PSNR, that's just a technical score for image quality. Basically, higher is better. So the original method used 2.8 million Gaussians. The previous best, MaskGS, got it down to around 700,000, which is pretty good. But look at our new method, SVR-GS. It gets virtually the same image quality score with only 260,000 Gaussians. That is a massive, massive reduction.
And when we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, it gets even more impressive.
On average, across a whole bunch of different complex scenes, SVR-GS creates models that are 5.6 times smaller than the original method. That is a huge leap forward in efficiency.
And you don't have to take my word for it, you can see it with your own eyes right here. In each of these rows, just compare the original on the left to the SVR-GS version on the far right. Now look at the number of Gaussians, that little hashtag G. It drops from millions to just a couple 100,000. And the visual difference? I mean, it's practically impossible to spot.
So what does all this efficiency actually mean for the real world? Well, for robotics, it means much faster, more nimble 3D mapping and navigation. For all of us with AR and VR, it means we can finally run these incredibly complex, realistic experiences on devices that don't have a ton of power, like a standalone headset or just your smartphone. This really brings high-end 3D perception into the palm of your hand.
And this all brings us to one final, really fascinating question. For years, the big goal was just to create a perfect digital twin of the world around us. But this research points to the next frontier. What happens when making that perfect digital copy is not only super fast, but also so lightweight and efficient that it can run on any device anywhere? That's when things start to get really interesting.